All right, so let's talk about factoring. And we're really going to focus on factoring polynomials, but first let's just talk about what factoring is in general. So let's just take the number 12, for example. Well, 12 can be factored quite a few different ways, but we could pull out a 2 and basically make it 2 times 6. Well, then we could take that a step further, and we could make it 2 times 2 times 3. That is factoring. So rewriting a number, okay, as a product of numbers that multiply together to equal that number is factoring. And we've used it before. You've used it for things like simplifying. You have 3 over 12. You can just rewrite that as 3 over 3 times 4, so that you can then cancel those 3's to 1, and you're left with 1 over 4. There's a use of factoring, and in fact, we're going to use that to factor some polynomials, but it's effectively the same thing in a later section. Now, let's talk about what we need to do when we're factoring a polynomial. And the first thing I'm going to remind you of is always factor the GCF first. Now, this isn't a rule, but it will cause problems if you don't. And if you don't believe me, try it yourself. Okay? So let's actually get into factoring this polynomial. So let's say we had a polynomial like 18x squared minus 39x minus 15. All right. Now, first off, if you're not sure, really look at it, and I know that 3 goes into both 18 and 15, and in fact, it also goes into 39. So I'm going to pull out a 3 first, and I'm going to use the box method. So notice the box has 4 terms, and I only have 3 here. What I'm going to do is I'm going to break up that middle term into 2 different terms, so it'll fit into my box. Okay, notice I'm putting equal signs. All these things are equal to each other. Okay, now to figure out what goes in the box, I'm going to take the 6x squared and multiply it by -5, giving me -30x squared. And I am going to take that -13x, and I'm looking for 2 numbers that add together to -13x and multiply together to -30x squared. Well, since they multiply to a negative number, I know one has to be positive, one has to be negative. And through a little deduction, I see that those numbers must be -15x and 2x. Well, those are going to go here. Okay? And now that I have them there, I can fill them into my box. Those black terms are going to go in 2 of the corners, and the orange terms go in the other. Now that I've got my box filled in, really this is just factoring by grouping, but all I have to do is find the GCF of each row and column. So GCF of this row is just 2x. Okay? The GCF of this row is -5. If there's a lead negative, like there is with the -15x here, I'm going to do that. And then I'm going to do the same for the top. And it's factored. I've used the area model of a rectangle, and I can double check it. Okay? 2x times 3x equals 6x squared. 3x times -5 equals -15x, and I can go through and do that for the rest. So I'm going to rewrite my polynomial as a product of those 2 factors. And notice that I put equal signs all the way through. And again, if you worked backwards here, you could check your answer by multiplying everything back out. But you don't even really need to do that, because the way that I multiply, or the way that I've at least shown you to multiply, is the exact same. You end up with the same box whether you factored it or multiplied it. So it's there for you to check your work. Pretty cool.